So today, originally, the video was going to be about the new tank I bought last month and how it's going to be set up. I finally decided what I wanted to do with it and what kind of fish I wanted. I was going to talk about that. But unfortunately, those plans changed as of yesterday. So in case y'all didn't know, I started a new job the 4th of July, and I have been working part-time, but pretty much full-time, since I started until I start school next week, so that I could, save enough money and do what I wanted to do with the aquarium. So I've been very, very busy with that, plus taking care of all of the fish that I do currently have, and so it's just been very, very hectic. But the point of this video is that, as you saw in the opening, I had to set up a quarantine tank yesterday for Night. And for those of you that don't know, Night is my largest fish. He's the current largest fish that I own, and he's also the largest fish I have ever raised. He is about 3 pounds, and I've had him since April of 2017. He was just a wee little thing back in the day, and he was about the size of a $50 then, and it seemed like every month he just doubled in size, until eventually I had to put him in a 110-gallon stock tank because he had outgrown all of my aquariums, and he's really never been sick. He's always been a very healthy, active fish. Night and I have a very complicated relationship. I usually call him the butthead of the gang because he doesn't get along with any of my fish. He hates everyone except for Comet, which I call him his little brother. And they have stayed in the pond for several months now, and that's the only fish that he won't fight. Night is essentially the golden boy of Cheyenne Goldfish. He's kind of, the mascot. Everybody that comes over and wants to see these fish, whether it be friends or family, he's always the one that they want to see first because they know him. I post him all the time on my Instagram, on my Facebook page. I talk about him all the time. He always does something that makes me talk about him because he's just stubborn and he likes to get attention. Let's start at the beginning of this whole issue. Today is Wednesday, and on Monday, I was going around to feed the fish, and I opened the pond behind me and started to feed Night and Comet, and I noticed that Night looked slightly different. I noticed that he looked slightly different than he had, so I pulled up a chair and I caught him and took a good look at him, and as well as some pictures, and here is what I found. So some of his scales were slightly, just ever so slightly raised, and other than that, there was really no other symptom of anything. He was eating as he always does. He's a pig, if you can't tell by his size. But he was eating and pooping, and everything was completely normal with him. Nothing had changed. So I took the photos, and I talked to a good friend of mine, and I was like, I don't know if I'm seeing this like, I need a second opinion. And the first thing you have to realize about Knight is because of his size, he has some huge scales, and in places they somewhat overlap each other, and sometimes they can slightly stick out, especially when he's gained some weight, which he's done a lot over the past year and a half or so. You know, that's his thing. He gains weight. He's huge. He is my giant butthead, but he's still mine. And, you know, my friend said that it could just be weight. You know, he could have just gained some more weight since I last looked at him, or something could have changed, but as long as he's eating and everything is normal, just to watch it. So I said, okay, you know, I'll just watch him. I am a firm believer in not treating a fish unless I know what I'm treating. I do not like to dump antibiotics and all this other medication on something if I don't know what the problem is. So Monday night, I checked him again. Still the same, eating as usual. Tuesday morning, I was supposed to be off work, but I actually got a call that morning and they needed me to come in urgently, so I very quickly left and I went to work without checking the fish. And when I came home, my first thought was that I need to check on Knight. And when I opened the pond, it didn't take me a second to realize that there was something else wrong here. I didn't even fully move the plastic off of the tub before I saw his scales, and I immediately knew that I was in trouble. Knight definitely had dropsy, and there was no denying it. I had dealt with dropsy in the past. My red butterfly telescope JoJo had dropsy last September. I successfully cured her, and no matter how many times you cure it or you lose fish to it, you never want to see it. It's just not one of those things. It's like the Grim Reaper in goldfish world, because it's often, more times than not, deadly. And Knight was just one that I never thought would have it. I mean, there was no symptoms, there was no nothing, it just occurred. So I jumped into action. I got rid of my uniform, got on my fish clothes, as I call them, and I started going through the garage to get my quarantine tub. I set it up in my bathroom because it's the easiest thing for me to do water changes on if it's already in the shower. And plus, that's a guest bathroom anyway, so we don't really use it, and it's kind of just the opportune place. So I got it ready, and I started to pretty much go into mom mode. I had that thing set up, and it medicated him in it within like 10 minutes. I was on it. And so what I did was I made sure that I put in water that was the same temperature as the pond. I added an air stone. I added prime as per usual, because I do use municipal water. And then I added some Kanaplex, which is what I used on JoJo, and I had some left over, so that was my best option. So I used Kanaplex, and I also added Epsom salt for the swelling. And then I went and I caught Knight, and I moved him over. And I watched him like a hawk, like all night long. It's just like when you go to bed, when you're a fish mom or dad, like you can't help but wonder about them. And it was just like my stress level was through the roof, because Knight is you know, usually when you ask parents who their favorite kid is, they won't tell you. They'll say, I don't have favorites. But you know good and well that they do, because everybody does. You always have a favorite, and he is my favorite. And I don't think I've ever said that, but he's the one that I've grown. Like, I've raised this fish from a baby to this full-size monster fish, and even though he has a bad attitude, I still love him, and I did not want to see him have this issue. I wanted him to, you know, live in the pond and be happy, and I wanted, you know, friends and family to come over and be like, I want to see Knight again. I wonder if he's gained a lot of weight. You know, that's what they always love to see. They like taking pictures of him. They just want to love on him, and I couldn't imagine losing this fish, especially since I just lost Z like 2 months ago to the day that he got sick. It was just really, really hard to admit that he had dropsy. And when it comes to dropsy, it's a really hard thing to treat because you don't always know the problem. Dropsy in itself is not a disease, it's a symptom of something else. So in order to treat it, you have to know what that something else is. And in this case, I am 99% certain that it's bacterial dropsy, which is a better case scenario because it's slightly easier to treat than other types of dropsy, and I'm hoping that the Kanaplex will fix the problem. Because if it doesn't, I don't know what else to do with him. Like, I've got a heater in there, and, you know, Epsom salt and the Kanaplex, and that worked with JoJo, and I can only hope that it works with him. His scales are more so prominent today than they were yesterday, and he's also got some red finnage, but other than that, he'll still eat when you offer that to him, and he's still producing waste as normal. So that's all I really have for now. You know, JoJo, she got to the point where she didn't want to eat, and him eating is a good sign. At least, you know, he has an appetite, and he hasn't got to that point yet. You know, he's fighting it. He's a very, very tough fish, and if any of my fish could beat dropsy again, I think that it would be him. But you can't just decide that. You can't ever know that for sure. Dropsy is not something to play with. It's very fatal. Unfortunately, it is my worst nightmare. You know, I've dealt with a lot of fish sick in my 20 years of goldfish keeping. You add up a lot of things that you've dealt with the longer that you've been in this hobby, and no matter what it is, it could be very, very simple, but when it comes to dropsy, that's one of the things that no one wants to see their fish have, because it's really hard to treat, and if you don't catch it soon enough, it will kill them. And I'm just hoping and praying that I caught it in time to save him. So, as I'm sure people are going to ask about Comet, because he was in the same tank that Knight was. Comet was the only fish that came into contact with Knight, and so far Comet has shown no signs of illness. I check on him every time I check on Knight, just so if something happens, I can be on top of it really fast. But so far, he's his usual self, other than he's a little bit mad at me because I took Knight away from him and they're best buds, so he probably won't eat supper tonight, because that's usually how they tell me that they're mad, is they will reject food, which is kind of funny. But that's what they do. I know when I posted this on my Instagram, my parents, even when I moved him into the tub, I was filming myself doing it, and my parents were like, why would you do that? You know, they're just going to criticize you because you have a sick fish. And some may, some probably will, but I don't, you know, when I originally did this channel, I said that I was going to show everything, the good, bad, the ugly. This is the ugly. And unfortunately, if nobody talked about it, you know, then no one would know how to fix it. So hopefully everything goes as planned and not comes out of this. There's been no big change so far, but like I said, it's not even been 24 hours, so I wasn't really expecting it. JoJo did the very same thing. With JoJo, she started changing around the second and third day of being in quarantine. There was a big difference in her swelling and so on. So hopefully that's what happens to him. But I will do my best to keep you guys posted on my Instagram. It's a lot easier for me to update that than to have time to sit down and do a full video, but I will do my best. Hopefully within another couple days I'll do another one to show you guys, you know, how he's doing. Hopefully he's a lot better next time I show you, but we'll see. So I do appreciate all your guys' well wishes and all your thoughts and prayers that have come through to me on Instagram. For all you guys that did know, it's not just me that loves Knight, it's all of you. He's, you know, when I started the channel, I never thought that you guys would take to him as much as you did. I never thought that my family would take to him as much as they did, but there's just something about him that everybody loves, and I don't know what it is, because he's certainly on a very nice fish. But anyhow, thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below so that you can keep up with Knight and his progress, and also follow me on Instagram at Cheyenne Goldfish to keep track of him as well. And I'll see y'all next time.